And so the author says, section, rahimahullah ta'ala, 4 things invalidate wudu. That's the Shafi'i school. The first is what exits from one of the 2 eliminatory outlets. I'll try to remember all the different points that I mentioned, any extra details that I mentioned for you last time. I'll try to recall them this time. So the first is what exits from one of the 2 eliminatory outlets. 2 eliminatory outlets. So the Arabic word is as-sabilan or as-sabilain. The 2 pathways, the front or the back. That's what's meant by 2. The front is one and the back is the other. And I mentioned for you that some scholars said, or some Shafi'i scholars, they said, in reality, there's 3 pathways, not just 2. 2 for the front, 1 for the back. They said, however, for the women, the 2 in the front are obvious, and for the men, the 2 in the front are concealed. Meaning, for the women, the outlet for the urine and the outlet for the semen, they are 2 different outlets in the front. Yeah, the female sperm. 2 different outlets from the front, whereas for the male, there are 2 pathways, 1 for the urine, 1 for the semen, but they converge. Yani, they come together before reaching the outside. So anyways, you can just say it the way it's said here, 2 pathways. I'm only mentioning that to you for that it's the fact that it's interesting. Yani, and for some clarity about some things, especially the case of the female. So, yeah, the front and the back. So the male and the female, they both have a qubul, front, meaning front private part. And the male and the female, they both have a dubur, that's the back private part. Okay, that's clear. Anything that exits from there, anything that comes out of there. So that's clear for you. Whether it's normal or abnormal. Normal is like urine and feces. Abnormal is like a worm or blood, especially blood from the urinary pathway. That's abnormal. And then I mentioned a case for you to make you really understand what this rule means. Well, I mentioned 2 cases for you. One is in the case of the worm. What if the worm just poked his head out only and the rest of him didn't come out and then he went back in? Is the wudu broken? Yes, wudu is broken. Why? Because of the rule, the generality of the rule, the abstractness of the rule. This is how you're going to understand fiqh. Fiqh, the scholars, the precise, real scholars, whether they're Shafi'is or Hanafis or Malikis or Hanbalis, not amateurs who just flip pages on their own. The real scholars who studied and they have comprehension, they understood these rules and they formulated them according to broad words. Sometimes broad words. I mean, look at this way this is worded here. What exits from the eliminatory outlets? Okay. So if the worm pokes his head out and goes back in, did it exit? Yes, it did. Therefore, the wudu is broken. And I gave you another example. Let's say a man inserted into his urethra, so yani he inserted into his penis something like a rod or something like this. So inserting that into his penis will not break his wudu. Or like a Q-tip, the thing that has the cotton on the tip of it, you put it in the ear. Inserting that into the penis will not break the wudu. The rule is not for something to go inside will break the wudu. The rule is for something to come out will break the wudu. So what if now this thing is in there and the man inserted into there? So what if he just pulled it a little bit? Even if he didn't pull it all the way out, just pulled it a little bit, his wudu is broken. Why? Because that's the rule. Anything that comes out, anything that exits, breaks the wudu. Anything that exits the front or the back pathways breaks the wudu. Okay. So I think that's clear. What's another example? Another example the scholars mention. What if a woman had intercourse with her husband and he fulfilled his desire, yani he ejaculated inside of her. And then, but she did not ejaculate, she did not have her own climax. And then she took a ghusl because she had intercourse, so she needs a ghusl before she prays. And then her husband's mani comes out of her. Her husband's sperm comes out of her after she made her ghusl and her wudu. Is her wudu broken? Yes, it is. Because of the rule. Anything that comes from the front or back private parts breaks the wudu, except the sperm though. With the exception of the ejaculation of sperm, which the author didn't mention here, as you can see. It's not mentioned here, so you add that. That's the benefit of learning the books, like more than one book. If you're really interested in acquiring the religious knowledge or any field, learn a book, then learn another book, then learn another book. Each one, you put them together, you build on them, and you piece them together. One book will have a detail the other book didn't have. And remember, the knowledge is not in the books. The knowledge is in the hearts. You take all those books and you put the knowledge into your heart and you memorize it, then you have that knowledge. That's your knowledge now. And you fill in the gaps from any books because you have knowledge. Here, we're filling a gap in because we learned more than one book of Shafi'i Fiqh. We know that illa al-mani, except sperm. But it doesn't say that here, so we're going to mention it because the knowledge is in the hearts. We're not going to say it's not here in the book. Is that why? Is this a difference in opinion? No, it's not a difference in opinion. It's just not there. Why it's not there? Maybe the author was summarizing. He wanted to keep his books easy, which he did want to keep his book easy. What's the name of this summary? Al-Mukhtasar Al-Lateef, the light summary, meaning the easy one. But even though he wants to keep it easy, you want to be mindful while you're trying to keep something easy. You want to be mindful not to summarize too much and then you leave out important information. That's an important information. Okay, so I think that's clear what the rule is here. Anything that comes from the front or the back pathways, except for ejaculated sperm, your own sperm, one's own sperm. From here, also, some women have a question. They say, sometimes there is a moisture, a natural moisture from the vagina. It's not the moisture of arousal, which is called madhi, al-madhi, pre-ejaculation. For a man, they call it pre-ejaculation. Not the moisture of arousal, rather, it's just something else, a natural moisture. And sometimes she would find the effects of this or the traces of this in her pants, in her clothing, her underpants, or upon a pad that she puts. So she would have a question: does this break the wudu? So now you know the answer very clearly. Did it come from the one of the two pathways? Yes. Is it sperm? No. Then it broke the wudu. Anything that comes from those places breaks the wudu. Okay. Then I added for you an interesting detail, which this is a digression, doesn't really have to do exactly with what we are talking about, but only kind of in a way. Yani, the reverse of what we're talking about. Didn't I just tell you a few minutes ago? I gave you a scenario. If we supposed that a man inserted something like a cotton swab into his penis, this doesn't break his wudu because something going inside doesn't break the wudu. But if he just pulls it a little bit, even a little bit, and some of it comes out, even if he didn't pull it all the way out, if he just pulls it back a little bit, then that's going to break his wudu. Because the rule is anything that comes out, except for the sperm, comes out of the two pathways, it breaks the wudu. Okay, that's clear. So then I gave you a reverse of this. What's the reverse of this? The reverse of this is in fasting. Because fasting is for something to go inside of the body cavity from an outlet or an inlet. For something to go inside into the body cavity from an inlet, this will break the fast. I gave you an example. Like, what if someone was so constipated and his feces was hard, not soft, and then it came out not all the way out? This won't break the fast. But then what if he on purpose made it go back in because it's hard, so he was able to make it go back in? This will break his fast. If he did that on purpose. Because the rule is, that's why you want to understand fiqh, you need to understand the abstractness, the openness of the wording of those expert scholars. They word it like this on purpose. That's why they said anything that, for fasting, anything that enters the body cavity through an inlet will break the fast. That's if the person made it go back on purpose. I said he made it go back in on purpose. Not that it went back in on its own. It went back in on purpose. Then it's going to break his fast. Okay. Any question here before I move on? Uh, just about what you said about fasting. Yeah. I heard what you said right at the end. I heard that if you eat something during the day and you forget that you're fasting, then your fast is still valid. But if you swallow something, for example, accidentally, that your fast is invalid, and you remember that you're fasting, then your fast is invalidated. Okay, let's save that for fasting so we don't digress further. Or if you want, ask me at the end, inshallah. So, because that detail I gave, it was a digression in the first place that I mentioned for a reason, but I don't want to digress further into fasting right here. So either later when we get to fasting or at the end of the lesson if you want, inshallah. Tayyib. And what is that right there? That's a lesson in staying on point. That's a lesson in staying on topic, staying on your target. Very important. Some people, they jump all around. They don't have this ability to stay focused. And some people on purpose are like that. Those ones, they play games with you. Those are uh, deceivers. Be mindful of those. So anyway, the second is the loss of intellect. By sleeping or otherwise. What other way can you lose your intellect? Fainting. Fainting or being in a coma is different from sleeping. It's deeper than sleeping. And insanity is also not sleeping. So the loss of intellect, by sleeping or otherwise, breaks the wudu except the sleep of one who is firmly seated on the ground. Okay. You know this, insha'Allah ta'ala. But what did the author say here? He said, on the ground. Ala al-ard, or min al-ard. So is that a rule? Is the ard, is the ground or the floor? The rule could even put here in the English, we could put, what is that? Slash floor. The word ard here can mean either of those words. Could mean the ground or the floor. Except the sleep of one who is firmly seated on the ground or firmly seated on the floor, or if we want to put a semicolon, the ground or the floor. Is that a condition though? It's not a condition. The ground or the floor, the ard, is not a condition. Why the author said it like that? Maybe also because he wants to keep it easy for you. Because sometimes when the scholars mention their rules, their abstract rules, they're trying to word the rules in such a way that it covers everything all at once. They want to word it in a way to cover everything all at once, and at the same time, not be criticizable. They want to say it in a way that no one can criticize what they're saying, and at the same time, covers everything that needs to be covered. So that's how they word their things. Then everything that applies will be true. Their statement will be true about everything that applies. And everything that doesn't apply will not be included in your statement. And no one will be able to criticize the way they worded whatever they're saying. That's what they're trying to do usually. But sometimes when you do that, it goes beyond the comprehension of people. It's like too scientific now. Why he said it this way? He said it that way because he's trying to cover everything all at once. Here, why did the author say the ground or the floor when that's not a condition? Like, what if you're sitting on a chair? Or what if you're sitting on an animal? It's the same rule. As long as your buttocks is firmly planted and you were sleeping, sitting up, and you woke up in the same position, then you still have your wudu. So why mention the ard here, the ground or the floor, if it's not a condition? Yani, his statement is criticizable, but maybe because he's trying to keep it easy for a beginner. So he said that. Or maybe he said ard because he doesn't mean the actual ground outside. He means any landing where you are. Whether you're on the outside ground, or you're on the floor in your house, or you're on your roof, standing on your roof, or sitting on your roof. All of that, you can call it the ard, if that's what's supporting you. Maybe that's what he means by ard. Otherwise, you can remove that word. It's going to be broader then. It's going to cover more scenarios. By saying it this way, he is really excluding some scenarios like a chair, like the back of an animal. And he doesn't really want to exclude those for sure. Yani, he's a credible scholar. He knows. The one who wrote this, he knows those rules better than me. I'm Yani, slightly criticizing his statement. He knows better than me, but he put it this way. Okay. Any question here? The third is contact between men and women's skin, if they are big and marriageable. Okay. Now he said men and women. In the Arabic he says rajul and imra'ah. Actually, that's singular. Let's fix that. Between a man and a woman's skin. بشرتي رجل وامرأة. It says if they are, and we can fix this too. We can just say who are big and marriageable, meaning that man and that woman, both of them are big and marriageable. Okay. So first of all, when you say rajul and imra'ah, man and woman, this wording means they're pubescent in the first place. So if you want broader words, words that would even include someone who's not pubescent yet, you can say dhakar wa untha, male and female, who are big. Now it's broader. Man and woman is not including prepubescent males and females, although the rule includes prepubescent males and females who are big. Big here means not small in such a way that they're not normally desirable. Like 1 year old, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of this is not normally desirable. Those are not big yet. But what if that one is, let's say 12 years old, 13 years old, but is not pubescent yet? So there's not a set age here. I'm just painting a picture for you. Once they get to certain size, if you want, here, then they start to become desirable, even if they didn't reach puberty yet. So once they get to a stage where they are desirable, then touching this one breaks the wudu. For a woman to touch that boy will break her wudu, and for a man to touch that girl will break his wudu, and their wudu too. Both of their wudu will be broken. Yani, the woman and the boy, both of them, their wudu will be broken. The man and the girl, both of them, their wudu will be broken. So pubescence is not the rule for what breaks the wudu. It's the stage of desirability. Maybe one might say when they start blossoming, they reach a stage of desirability. The skin, التقاء بشرتي, the contact of skin. That means skin on skin contact. He says basharate in the Arabic, this skins. The third is contact between a man and a woman's skins, but I don't think we need the S on there as far as the English is concerned. The skin of each one of them. So if there's a barrier, then it doesn't break the wudu. Even a very fine barrier, even if it's a very sheer barrier, like what if a woman has on a stocking? The type of stocking that you can see the color of her skin through the stocking, so it's not thick. If you touch that stocking, it does not break your wudu. And don't say, but there's very small micro openings there, and maybe some of her skin has protruded through those micro openings. Don't go that far. If there's a barrier there, then the wudu is not broken. Unless it's verified that the skin touched the skin. And marriageable before that. So what's not skin? Hair is not skin. Teeth is not skin. Nails are not skin. So touching the hair or the teeth or the nails does not break the wudu. But if that one is not your spouse, if that's a marriageable one who's not a spouse, then still touching it is haram. But it doesn't break the wudu because that's not thought to be the spot of desire. None of those in terms of touching. The hair, the teeth, the nails, touching those are not thought to be the spot of desire for touch, as opposed to the eye, for example. The hair is a spot of desire for the eye, for seeing. So the woman's going to cover her hair, not for the touch as much as the sight. So marriageable, then I told you last time. Who's not marriageable? I gave you 5 categories. Can someone tell me what those 5 categories are? All at once. Can you tell me all of them in one answer? 5, 4, 3. Someone said brother, uncle, grandfather, father-in-law, son. No, because grandfather and father-in-law fall under one category. 2. Repeat the question? Yeah. So the author said marriageable, ajnabi. So I told you last time 5 categories who are not marriageable. Can you give me those 5 categories in one answer? Don't split them up. 3. Nephew, brother, uncle, grandfather, son. Not exactly, almost. 1. So the answer is okay, and y'all answered from the woman's perspective. Usually they're going to start with the man's perspective. So I'm going to start that way. So from the man's perspective, it would be mother, daughter, sister, aunt, or aunt, niece. Those are the 5. So from a woman's perspective, it's going to be father, son, brother, uncle, nephew. So where your answer was lacking for me is that you put grandfather instead of just father. Yani the grandfather is a father. The grandfather is a father. So it's enough just to say father. The answer before has grandfather as one and father-in-law as another. Both of those are fathers. Yeah, the father-in-law is a father. Yes. So those are 5 categories. That's why I put it that way, because you can branch these. They have branches. So, yani, mother includes what? Includes the woman who gave birth to the man. And the woman who nursed him, his nursing mother is a mother. His wife's mother, his mother-in-law. His mother's mother, his father's mother is a grandmother. Also, his grandfather's wife is a kind of a mother. His father's wife, his grandfather's wife, all of those are mothers, kinds of mothers. And same for the woman, from her perspective, just reverse it. So her father, uh, her father's father, her mother's husband, who's not her father, her grandmother's husband, those are all fathers. Uh, so mother, daughter, so that includes whom the girl you gave birth to, she's, though conceived in wedlock, she's conceived in wedlock. In the Shafi'i school, she's conceived out of wedlock, then she's not your daughter, nor is the boy your son. Out of, not wedlock, I'm sorry. Yeah, conceived. No, wedlock, yes, conceived. Sometimes I slip and I say born. Born in wedlock, not born in wedlock, conceived in wedlock is what should be said. Without a marriage contract, this is going to sever the relationship between the child and the man, not the mother, though. It's going to still be the mother, the woman and the child that she give birth to. That's her child. Without a marriage contract, that's going to break the relation between the child and the man. So when we say daughter, means she's conceived in wedlock. Also, the son's wife, a man's son married a girl, so that's now his daughter-in-law. She's a kind of daughter. His granddaughter, his wife's daughter, if he consummated the marriage with his wife, though, there's a detail in this case. His wife's daughter, if he consummated the marriage with his wife, and others. So, mother, daughter, sister. So that includes full sister. That means all your siblings. That means you and her have the same mother and father. That's what full sister means. You and her have the same mother and father, full sister. Half sister, sharing only one parent, like some of the brothers of Yusuf, the sons of Yaqub. Yaqub had 4 women. One of them had 2 sons, one of them had 2 sons, like that. So some of them are half brothers, some of them are full brothers. All those sisters, half sister, full sister, they are all non-marriageable, will not break the wudu. But not the sister-in-law. That's your brother's wife. Your brother's wife is not married, is not mahram. She's not mahram. She's still marriageable. If he passed away or if he divorced her, you could marry her. Or your wife's sister-in-law, she is mahram. If you divorced your wife or if your wife passed away, you could marry her sister. So these ones, touching them break the wudu. The sister of the wife of the brother, the husband of the sister, these break the wudu. So, mother, daughter, sister. Also, when we say sister here, if they come from the same man, then they were both conceived in wedlock. Both of them conceived in wedlock when it comes to being from the same man. That's the Shafi'i school. Mother, sister, daughter, aunt, That's your father's sister or your mother's sister. Uncle, that's your mother or your father's brother. These are mahram, non-marriageable. And also your great uncle, your great great uncle, like your grandfather's brother, your grandmother's brother or sister. Those are still non-marriageable. Those are mahram. But not the woman who married your uncle. She is not mahram. She's marriageable. And not the man who married your aunt. He is not mahram. It's obvious for you. I'm talking about man's perspective and woman's perspective here. And the niece or the nephew, I don't know any kinds of those. I don't know if those have kinds, the niece and the nephew. Then someone asked last time, is it enough for us to say blood relative? So I said no, because the cousin is a blood relative and the cousin is marriageable and it breaks the wudu. See, that goes back to what I was telling you. Why the scholars say their words the way they do? Because they're trying to say something in a way that anything that should be included is included. Anything that should not be included is not included. We can't say blood relative because then that's going to include the cousin, and the cousin should not be included. And also, if we say blood relative, then that's going to exclude the relative by marriage and the relative by breastfeeding. We don't want to exclude those. We don't want to include the cousin. We don't want to exclude the relative by marriage or the relative by nursing. So we have to say our words in such a way, that's what the scholars do rather, and say the rules in such a way that everything that should be included is included and everything that should not be included is not included. Some people, they don't know that the Muslim scholars are the best ones. Those ones are, who's the smartest ones? The prophets are the smartest ones. Who's smartest after the prophets? The saints, the awliya. Who's smartest after the saints? The Muslim scholars. Some people think, they're just guys. They didn't know their religion. There's other people, they're as smart as they are. They are not. I'm not saying that out of bigotry, although I am biased. I'm saying it out of fact. Okay. Then he said here, rahimahullah ta'ala, the fourth is touching the front private part of a human or his anus with the inner palm or the inner fingers. So I mentioned for you. Why he said the front private part or the anus? Why he didn't just say a private part? And that would include the anus. Well, he could have. Had he said it that way, he would be correct. And it would be fewer words. He would have said something that includes everything that should be included. Then why say it this way, the front private part or the anus? Because Imam Ash-Shafi'i has two sayings. His old saying, his first saying is that the anus, touching the anus, does not break the wudu. Then he changed his ijtihad and he saw that the anus is a private part. So he said it has the same judgment as the front private part. So according to the new saying of Ash-Shafi'i, you can just say private part. And we'll cover the anus. According to the old saying of Shafi'i, you're going to say the front private part and not the anus. And it's permissible to take his old saying. It is permissible to take his old saying if you wanted to. How does that look? That looks like a person who, for example, has hemorrhoids or an itch, for example, a very urgent itch, and he needs to touch there, and he doesn't have a barrier, and he has wudu, and then he touched there, and then he didn't want to make a new wudu, and so he took by the old saying of Ash-Shafi'i and said, this does not break the wudu according to a saying of Ash-Shafi'i. That's permissible. Okay. Here, this one is where touching the same gender will break the wudu. When it comes to touching the private parts, then this is where touching the same gender will break the wudu. And touching your own self will break the wudu. This one is where touching one's own self breaks his wudu, and touching the same gender breaks the wudu. So that's going to break the wudu. Touching the front private part of a human or his anus with the inner palm or the inner fingers. Which means when you put your two palms together and press lightly, whatever disappears is the inner part. And whatever stays visible is the outer part. And when it comes to the female front, what will break the wudu is touching where the two inner vaginal lips come together. I think that's called minor labia or something like that. This breaks the wudu, not the outer labia. That doesn't break the wudu. And for a man, touching the testicles does not break the wudu. And touching where the pubic hair over the private part is, what's between the private part and the stomach, does not break the wudu. And touching the outside of the cheeks or even the inside of the butt cheeks does not break the wudu. Only the actual hole breaks the wudu with the inner palm or the inner fingers, without a barrier, that is. And saying all of these things, we should not feel shy about that, because this is our religion and this is knowledge. So when you give this lesson to any person, you're going to be clear, straightforward, not shy or anything like that. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best. Any question?
Yeah, I have two.
Okay.
You said that breaking wudu by touching the anus is specifically the hole.
Yes.
Does that include the rim or the inside? Is it only the inside?
The rim.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned breaking wudu by touching the private part, the front private part or the back of a human, or the anus, even if it's the same gender. Does age matter?
No. No, age doesn't matter. And if it's an animal's organ, does not break the wudu. No part of touching an animal breaks the wudu. Any part of an animal is like any other part of an animal. Like if you were to pet the animal's head or his back, it's just like that. Touching any part of the animal is like touching any other part of the animal. It's not applicable to us humans. The animal's organs in this regard is inapplicable to us humans.
Got confused because sometimes kids need help with istinja, and I was like, what?
No. So last time we did go further than this, and we talked about what's forbidden if you don't have wudu, but we're out of time for now. So let's stop here, and we'll pick that up for next time, inshallah.